Hello and welcome to the 2015 playoff edition of Dimoteo Football. And we're going to go to Chris for the seed breakdowns.
All right, so here's how it breaks down. With the Packers winning, they have the best record in the league, thus they get the #1 seed. With the Panthers choking and almost dying against the Ravens, surprise, surprise, that puts everything in a whirlwind. So we have three teams that had a 6-2 record. Now the Eagles had beaten the Panthers and the Seahawks had beaten the Eagles, but the Panthers and the Seahawks never played, so we had to go to the power rankings, and we took the power rankings like we normally do, also added a score from the strength of schedule, and with that, the Eagles had the best power ranking score, so they got the #2 seed, which left the Seahawks and Panthers for a head-to-head. They did not play, so the next best power ranking was the Seahawks, then the Panthers. Now, the Raiders get the 5th seed because they lost to the Packers. They were 5-3. The final three are 4-4 teams, the Cowboys, Vikings, and Colts. I think the Vikings beat the Colts, Colts beat the Cowboys, Cowboys beat the Vikings, so there was a big whirlwind there. So we had to go to power rankings. With the power rankings, the Cowboys came on top, so they get the 6th seed, which leaves the Vikings and Colts in a head-to-head matchup. Vikings won the game this last week, thus we have our matchup in set. Vikings 4-4. Colts 4-4 in the 8th seed. Now what's interesting is I think this might be one of the first times that we had everybody was 4-4. You actually needed 4 wins to make the playoffs, which is very surprising because normally with 3, there's usually somebody with 3 wins that's in. So incredible league. I'm amazed this year by what we see in the league. I think it's going to be one of the best playoffs we've ever had in Timoteo history.
Well,
so all to you, Eric Sugarmore.
That's the breakdown. Again, that's Chris, Leo, Buddy, and I'm Eric. Now we'll get to that first 2 o'clock game with the Panthers and Raiders with Chris.
All right, man.
About the times of the games.
Yeah, so this is at 2 o'clock on Field A. We got the Panthers and Raiders. You know, at the beginning of the year, we lost to the Eagles. I said the big reason why we lost is because we did not have Josh. This week, we had everybody there. Everybody was there before the game. We warmed up. I have no excuse for getting our butts kicked by the Ravens, and I appreciate the Ravens for doing that. I thank you for that, and it shows where we're at in the league too. They played their hearts out, even though they did not get into the grade 8, and I think that's amazing the direction that we're going in as a league. So it looks like you might need 4 wins from now on going into the future. Going to this game, we got the Panthers are 1 in offense, 8th in defense. Raiders are 6th in offense, 5th in defense. They met in week 6, and the Panthers bested that with a 26-14 win. They're pretty close in stats. I think the Panthers basically have more passing touchdowns, every category they have more, but we all know that stats mean nothing at this point. Records mean nothing at this point. It is 0-0. You lose, you go home. I think the Raiders are on a quest for a 3-peat, but the Panthers are looking for their first playoff win. I think this is going to be an incredible game. I think the Panthers edge this one 25-24.
Well, once again, Chris, I have to agree with you. Every year, you know, it seems like the Raiders seem to find a way to win, but this year, I think the Panthers are going to pull it out because this is a rematch from last year's first-round playoffs where the Panthers lost to them in a last play where one of the players broke up the ball to Sadiq. And a lot of people thought Sadiq dropped the ball, but I believe it was broken up. So I'm going to go with the Panthers pulling this one out, 26-19. What do you say, buddy?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, this is definitely the rematch from last year. And what's strange is we got both of these teams going into the playoffs with a loss. So no one really has the advantage there in having to play off of a loss. So for both of these teams, it's wake-up week. You know, I think both of them kind of sleptwalk coming in. I know with the Raiders, they had issues with Prime, and they were trying to recover without a lot of sleep to come play in the game, and they were little short players. The Panthers, I just think there might have been a little cockiness, underestimated their opponents, and underestimated the Ravens' will to win to try to get into the playoffs. The Ravens gave them everything they had. So, you know, good job, Ravens, just not enough to make the playoffs. It's going to be interesting because when you go in this game, the Raiders are not going to be with their head coach. Their 2 coaches are going to actually have a trip to Vegas that they're going to be going to, and it won't be at the game. But Josh is going to be filling in, so it's going to be interesting. The Raiders, you know, they did win 2 championships with Josh at quarterback. He does have a little knowledge of how to call plays because having coached him, he's real hard-headed. He doesn't really follow the game plan anyway. So we're going to see kind of what he has to do. Also, we don't know who's going to be the quarterback for the Raiders. Is it going to be Smoke? Is it going to be Jeff? With Smoke coming in, adds a different dynamic because then Jeff goes to wide receiver. It's going to be both teams defensively are pretty good. I know the Raiders, they held us to 6 points in the first half. And then the second half we just kind of poured it on them. But it's going to be up to the superstars. Can who's going to make more plays, Jeff or George? I mean, who do you guys think? And then the role players, Miles is kind of like the guy that kind of takes you guys down the field. And for them, to have, I guess Kevin will be their guy in the middle, So it's whoever steps up and whoever wins. In this one, the Panthers might have showed their hand. I just think they can't handle the pressure. Maybe their championship was the win against us. Maybe that's all they really wanted. I don't know if maybe they don't want the championship. Maybe that's not what they wanted. But so we're gonna see in this game. I'm gonna go with the Raiders. I'm gonna lean with them. I think Freddie just adds an extra dynamic to their team on defense, and I don't see them losing 2 games in a row. So I'm going Raiders 33-20.
All great picks, and I think Freddie and Devon will be the big impact players for that game. Who could get more pressure on the quarterback, and how the quarterback deals with it. And Freddie did get the sack record, and Devon, they're tied. So let's see how that works out. Maybe there's a more competitive edge there. So, but I do have the Panthers edging out the Raiders. So,
Buddy, it's interesting that you say that the Raiders coaching staff is in Vegas this week. I was talking to Rob after he found out he was going to play the Panthers, and he told me that, hey, he's confident in his boys. He planned this trip right after they lost to you guys. He said he needed a break, he needed to regroup, and he thinks that he's going to meet you guys in the Urban Bowl. So, hey, for the Panthers, that may be something for you to think about.
All right, so we'll get to that next 2 o'clock game with the Eagles and the Vikings.
Yeah, so here it's interesting. I found an interesting stat for the Eagles. Eagles have 24 passing touchdowns, and the Vikings have 23 passing touchdowns. But overall touchdowns, the Eagles have 35 and the Vikings have 29. That means that the Eagles have scored 11 touchdowns not passing. And so we know a lot of that comes at the legs of the quarterback. And so it's very interesting. I think it's more than anybody else in the league in terms of rushing touchdowns or touchdowns, pick sixes, and different things like that. So they score in many different ways. He is throwing some touchdowns, but I'm telling you, be careful, Vikings. He's not one to be blitzed. But after 5 count, get in there. Because it's interesting, the Vikings actually have more sacks than the Eagles. They have 14, whereas the Eagles only have 10. They're both tied with 16 interceptions. So I think it's going to be close defensively. It's just, can they contain the quarterback? Can they contain Brian and keep him from running wild in blitzing situations? I think if they do, they have a chance to win, but I don't know. I just think there's still too much dysfunction. I was shocked that they came out and beat the Colts. I have no idea what happened. I haven't had a chance to watch the tape on that yet, but I think the Eagles are going to end up being too much for the Vikings. I think the Eagles are going to win this in 27-19.
Well, Chris, for the first time in Team Hotel history, I have to disagree with you. I'm going to go with the Vikings in a close one. It's going to be 19-18. I think Brian is going to mess this game up for the Eagles by trying to run in on an extra point, and that's going to be the downside of that game for the Eagles, because Brian's going to try to run in the PATs, and I don't think he's capable of doing that against the Vikings. I think Shameed's going to cover ground well. Then Hector might put him back at linebacker again, so I think that's going to be the problem. And I think the Vikings win this one out 19-18 in a close one.
Hey, Leo, you might want to use some sunscreen over there because it's dangerously dark you get here. I'm going to be careful there. All right. Another thing. So with this game here, it's interesting. The Vikings look dead. And I was talking to other teams, and I was like, that's the team we want to play in the playoffs. They have no life. Their coach and players weren't getting along. And then you have this offensive output that they do it on offense and defense against the Colts. And then it's like, wow, can they do it again? They hit all their holes, and for the first time, they actually look like a legitimate contender. You guys talked a little bit about the Vikings, they usually do not get eliminated in the first round. But then we also know with the Eagles don't usually get eliminated in the first round either. Usually they find a way to sneak into the Urban Bowl or just kind of upset somebody along the way. This is going to come up, I think, to defense. I think the Eagles' defense is for real. With Teddy, Brian, at safety, you got Julius, who has the career tackles record with 194. So good job, Julius. And then you have little Freddie sacking the quarterback. And their corners are pretty good too. If there's one guy that I'd probably try to pick at is probably Eric Desimar over there, a little young guy. That's the guy that's gonna go. So the Vikings, they play really well. But what scares me is Moses has been inconsistent. The ball has been sailing on him when he kind of throws. His receivers are kind of tall too, and it's just like pick city. And then the thing is with the Eagles, if they get picks, they return them for touchdowns.
Yeah.
So Moses cannot turn the ball over.
Yeah.
If he can find a way not to turn the ball over, they can compete in this game. The other thing is with the Vikings season being so fragile, I don't know if they can play from behind. I think if they fall behind early, it's over, and the Eagles win this game in the blowout. If the Vikings can somehow score early, I think the Vikings can actually compete a little bit because the Eagles' offense isn't electric. It's okay. They're able to score when they need to. It seems like whenever Brian needs to score a touchdown, he comes clutch and drives down the field. But it's not like they're doing it on every drive. They're a little inconsistent. So we're gonna see Wesley. It could be a big playmaker in this game as he's the dump off guy for Brian. So if they cover everything up, he can kind of get the chunk of the yards in the middle. The Vikings have the young receivers, Adarius and Kashin, and I don't know if they can handle the pressure. So in this game, I'm gonna have to go with the Eagles 20-13. I don't think they have enough.
It's way too much. I don't really see much of a competition in this game. I got the Eagles in a blowout. There's nothing else to say.
So no one pays you any money.
I know. So that'll do it for the first half prediction of the playoffs, and we will be back for the second half.